Hey, someone fixed the clock in here.
Yeah, to my satisfaction.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting was provided on January 5th, 2021 by sending written notice and electronic notice to the Courier News and the Star Ledger, posting on the website and the bulletin board in the municipal building, and filing with the township clerk. A subsequent notice with live stream information was provided on June 28th, 2021. Anyone wishing to live stream this meeting may do so by going to the website webinar.ringcentral.com/J/14889515552 or telephone via US at 1-312-263-0281. The webinar ID number is 148-895-1552. I wonder if in the future we could use like a bit.ly shortener for that webinar link,
Tiny URL.
right? All right, roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Here.
Councilman Cardilla?
Here.
Councilman Nogales?
Here.
Councilman Ray?
Good evening here.
President Pedrosa?
Here, thank you. If you're able to stand, would you please do so and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving on, we have some minutes for consideration this evening. We have June 21st, 2021. Any additional comments? Not, is there a motion?
I'll move them.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll make the second, please.
Thank you, sir. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are unanimously approved. Moving on to Township Council reports. Councilman Kirsch.
Thank you. A few items tonight. I had the pleasure of attending the July 4th celebration at the Middlebrook encampment. For my money, that is our richest embodiment of Bridgewater's history. The belief that the first flag of the United States of America was raised at that site. A flag believed to not be the Betsy Ross flag, but interestingly enough, the Hopkinson flag, a similar design. But instead of the stars being in a circle, they're arrayed in rows. And for that reason, a Hopkinson flag flies from one July 4th until the next, when it is retired and a new one is raised, and that's exactly what happened for, I believe, the 127th time as an actual ceremony this past Sunday. I know Mayor Mensch was there, Councilman Ring was there, and we had a number of members of the community as well. Last night, I attended the Somerset County Governing Officials meeting, which was a joint meeting with Warren and Hunterdon counties, held over at RVCC. The featured speakers were Lisa Hibbs from the Commercial Utilities Consultants, and Vicki Malloy, Concord Energy Corporation, discussing energy supply aggregation. I found it to be an interesting conversation, and there's certainly potential for consideration of this notion moving forward. The zoning board met in this room for the first time live 2 evenings ago. The planning board has been canceled for the next upcoming meeting. And Linda, I should have discussed this with you ahead of time, but I think we can now publicly state that Bridgewater's municipal complex will be one of, I believe, 6 locations for early voting. So plans continue to execute there. And that will, I believe, be a great resource for Bridgewater residents as well as some of our neighboring communities to be able to come for approximately a 10-day period before the election at their leisure and vote. Certainly, I know everyone on this dais encourages everyone who's registered to vote to do so. And if this is a way that more people are involved and engaged in our democracy, it's a good thing. And that is extent of my reports tonight.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Ring.
All right, thank you. I'm going to repeat a couple of Councilman Kirsch's comments. As he mentioned, did attend the July 4th celebration at Middlebrook. I would agree that it is probably one of our best hidden gems out there. It is through a special act of Congress that flag can fly there 24 hours a day, 7 days a year, with the understanding that the Declaration of Independence is read each year. If you've never participated in it, highly recommend you do. It's held rain or shine in order to meet the requirements of reading the Declaration of Independence. And then I also attended last night the joint Somerset, Hunterdon, and Warren County Governing Officials Association meeting at RVCC. As Councilman Kirsch mentioned, CUC spoke about energy aggregation. And that is my report.
Thank you. Councilman Orgales.
Thank you. I won't repeat any of the 4th of July ones. I'll simply say happy birthday to us. Attended several finance meetings dealing with the refinancing of bonds and notes, which we will deal with in 11B on the agenda tonight. The road work on Eisenhower Lane, which must be completed before school starts in September, has been done with sidewalk curbing and sewer inlet work beginning from under Top Line Construction's Aegis, and they are doing a great job. That is my report. Thank you.
All right. Short and sweet tonight. Impressive. Council Vice President Cardillo.
For my report, I'd like to say that I took the liberty to meet with Chief Payne just to discuss some questions I had regarding some traffic and road conditions in the Findern section of the township that we will be addressing in the near future. And also regarding the budget, I reached out to Mayor Mensch with some questions related to the department budgets, and I'm very pleased to say that all my questions were answered, and I offer the opinion that all is in order.
That's it.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I'm really happy you guys had a chance of participating in the events over here at Middlebrook Campground. They really are special. I've had the opportunity of attending that event several times over my 10 years on the council, and it's truly special. Anyone in the public who hasn't done so really should be encouraged to do that. You know, not only does the flag fly there 24 hours a day by order of Congress, but it's the first time the United States flag was unfurled. It's kind of special. Congress adopted our national flag on June 14th of 1777, and that was the first place that the flag was unfurled. So think about that. That was right here in Bridgewater Township, so that's really special. I did attend, had an animal shelter meeting, and the Budget Finance Committee did meet with the administration to discuss item, I think it's 12B on the resolution, the 11B, the resolution for the bond. And I attended the Bridgewater Raritan Regional High School graduation. My oldest daughter, Sophia, graduated from high school. It was really nice to see that, you know, the students were able to have a graduation this year, you know, together, and not have a physical graduation ceremony, and just for them to experience that, and it's really special. So I want to congratulate all of our many students here in Bridgewater Raritan who graduated from high school, and those that graduated from middle school, and certainly we have students that graduated from college. It's a great time of year. It's very festive, and I wish them all really the best of luck in their future endeavors. And that is my report. So we're going to move on to the mayor's report. Mr. Pappas.
Mayor is not here, but just one comment that I know that he would have made if he were present. The council will consider a resolution tonight for the pavement preservation program. As you all know, that when you approved the road program for 2021, preservation of existing roads that would not necessitate major reconstruction is part of the program. The entity that we are proposing to you to approve is under a state contract, so the normal bidding process was not required. It's a very cost-effective and program, and the particular contractor that's proposed is someone that our township engineer has had a lot of experience with. I think this company may have even done work here previously, but we're very pleased to present this to the council for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to item number 7, we have budget, I guess, public hearing and final action on 7A, which is an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank for the 2021 calendar year, provided by New Jersey Statute 40A:4-45.14. Is there a motion to open this for public comment? Thank you, sir.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Anyone in the public wishing to address this council on item 7A should do so. Do note that we are going to open the meeting again in item number 8 when the public would be then invited to speak on any other matter besides this particular ordinance. Anyone wishing to address the council on ordinance 7A? I don't see anyone moving forward, so is there a
Motion to
motion?
close
Is that also a motion for final action?
and final action.
Second.
Second, okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Padilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Josephs?
Yes. And just for the public that are here, the council did discuss this matter during its introduction at the last meeting. Item number 8 is meeting open to the public. Is there a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Members of the public wishing to address the council on any matter will be allowed 2 minutes to speak unless there are unusual circumstances. Does anyone wish to address this governing body? Yes, please provide your name and address for the record.
Okay, I'm Jennifer Lockred. My address is 716 Falcon Court.
Welcome.
I took notes because I don't speak well on the fly. I'd like to thank you guys on behalf of my neighborhood and the 80 families that live in the Falcon Court, Red Lion, St. George's neighborhood for approving to have the roads repaved. I grew up on in that area, and I have distinct memories of not being able to, skateboard.
Could you speak a little louder?
Oh, sorry. I was thanking you for approving to have our roads repaved in our neighborhood.
That's something you want to hear.
And I grew up on that street, so I have distinct memories of not being able to skateboard or rollerblade or even run, really. So we have about 80 families that live there, and my kids won't have to have those memories, and the kids that live in those houses don't have to have those memories. But I also wanted to acknowledge the town workers that have come out. They've been really professional, very courteous, but also I think his name is Mark, and if I got it wrong, I'm so sorry, but him and his team ran a camera through the sewers, and all the kids were really curious what they were doing, and they took the time to show all of the neighborhood kids the sewers and the camera on the wheels and stuff. So I just wanted to acknowledge them too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Some budding engineering applicants, perhaps.
Yes.
Do we have any positions in the future?
Anyone else? Okay. Oh,
Oh, we got somebody.
John's coming.
John Arcolio, 1110 Washington Valley Road, Bridgewater, New Jersey. Last time I was here, I talked about the sewer system. I just want to continue on a little bit tonight, just about the collection of sewer taxes in Bridgewater. I ran for town council 2 years ago, and I talked to many people, and the overwhelming response from people who lived in apartment buildings was, why do they pay the same sewer tax that people who have bigger houses pay? I mean, everybody in this town, the residential units, almost 16,000, pay the 1 unit price of $3.99. I had several people one that comes to mind is a police officer in Warren. She was in a one-bedroom apartment. She says, I come from work and I gotta pay the same sewer tax that somebody pays for a big house in the Somerset Hills. So I'm just gonna ask the question, why can't we do something about the sewer tax in terms of making it more fair for people who only live in 1 or 2 bedroom apartments?
I don't think the Somerset Hills are. in
Surrounding
Bridgewater.
towns mostly have metered flow, but in Branchburg, I think they do it by bedrooms, and I think you may want to look at that.
No.
Somerset Hills are not in Bridgewater.
Excuse me?
The Somerset Hills are not in Bridgewater.
Somerset Hill comprises everything north of the Watchungs. Somerset Hills is a generic area. Martinsville, Crim area, Sunset Lake are in the Somerset Hills. Let's get clear here. It's Bridgewater. Okay. But can you look at the sewer tax, the way they're collected, and see if you can modify them to, give some benefit to people in apartment buildings that pay the same unit price? If you hired a home contractor to do work on your home, and you pay the one fee, would you be upset if you had to pay the same price for a small house as a large house?
Please finish.
Excuse me?
No, there is a response after you're done. The administrator will talk about it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Have a good night.
Mr. President?
Wait, let's see if anybody else wants
Oh,
to. Does anybody else wish to address this governing body? Going once, going twice. Is there a motion to
Move to
close?
close public input.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none.
Council President, I believe the administration has comment.
I'm aware of that.
No, just making sure.
Thank you. Mr. Pappas, go ahead.
Thank you. The council knows that a number of months ago, the council commissioned and engaged an engineering firm, Raftalis, to conduct an analysis of the sewer utility fee structure, look at any number of scenarios, and that has been being reviewed by our engineering staff, and at some point we will present that to the council. Municipalities handle this differently. Mr. Colio mentioned Branchburg. I live in Branchburg, and it's a flat fee and considerably more than Bridgewater's. It's not based upon sewer for residential, but some towns go with a flat fee, some towns go with a usage-based or some combination, but we will, I'm sure at some point, present some options to the council for their consideration.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Moving on to item number 9. Well, we don't have any public hearings and final actions tonight. So item number 10, introduction of ordinance 10A, an ordinance amending chapter 217 entitled Ambulances to modify the terminology used to describe the ambulance service and to modify the penalties for violation. Do you want to?
Sure.
Yeah, Councilman Ring.
So, thank you, Council President. So this ordinance actually was first put on the books back in 2003, and I may have been on the other side of the dais and had something to do with it back then. But Bridgewater Township is the home to about a dozen nursing homes and long-term care facilities. And over the years, there's challenges with the nature of the population of those facilities where some of them are bedridden and they can't get in a vehicle. And what has happened over the years is these facilities would call 911 for an ambulance to send a patient for a routine medical test because they had no other way to get there. It puts a burden on our volunteer squads, and it also, while they're doing that, they're not available for true emergencies. This ordinance does not prevent the long-term care facilities or nursing homes calling for a life-threatening emergency. It just prevents them from calling for non-emergency situations, requires them to make arrangements for alternative transportation. Over the years, as I said, it's from 2003, it hasn't been touched. At the time this was done, I don't believe the township had the Somerset Ambulance Shared Service Agreement in place to back up our daytime squads. There's a loophole in the ordinance as it relates to those ambulances. And also the penalties in the current ordinance provide for up to $1,500. There's been some violations, the same facility repeatedly. Last year, for 2 violations combined, was fined $125, far cheaper than the cost of one private ambulance ride. So looking to adjust that, not to generate revenue, but to drive compliance and to close the loophole with the contracted daytime ambulance service the town has as a backup. So with that, I'll move to introduce 10A.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions or comments by the council?
Give me a second.
I'll be happy to second that.
And I'm sorry, let me just,
Yeah, no one had a chance to really.
okay, apologize. Prior to this being introduced, Councilman Cardillo and I met with all of the rescue squads in Bridgewater, shared this with them for review and input. We may have some further changes down the road, but this is based upon meetings with them.
Okay, great. So we have a first motion by Councilman Ring and a second by Councilman Norgalis. Is there any discussion, questions, or any comments? If not,
Just want to compliment
Yep.
Councilman Ring, particularly for taking the lead on this, and I think we're probably ready to proceed.
okay, great. A roll call, please.
Councilman Kerr?
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Joseph?
Yes. Yes, please.
The public hearing and final action on this ordinance will be the 19th day of July 2021 at 7:30 PM here in person in the council chambers.
Thank you. Moving on to resolutions. 11A, authorizing Bridgewater tax collector Darrow Murdoch to conduct an electronic tax sale. Mr. Pappas.
This practice began, I believe, last year because of the pandemic, and this resolution simply permits Mr. Murdoch to do so again.
Okay,
I'll move 11A.
I'll second it.
great. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kerr?
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Joseph?
Yes. 11B, resolution combining bonds aggregating the principal sum of not to exceed for 5.9 million authorized by two bond ordinances heretofore adopted to finance part of the cost of various general improvements in the Township of Bridgewater, County of Somerset, New Jersey, into one consolidated issue of bonds and providing for the form, maturities, and other details of said consolidated issue. Just so you guys know, Councilman Norgalis and I did meet with the administration on this particular issue. This is basically a refinance of debt. It is not the incurrence of any new debt. It's just a restructuring of debt, taking advantage of certainly with our historical low bond rates and structuring and managing debt to best suit the township and the taxpayers. So that's what 11B is. Is there any comments, questions, or motion?
I have no questions, but I'm willing to make the motion.
Great, great. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kerr?
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Joseph?
Yes. 11C, resolution bypassing the vacation time carry. This I think. This one we're going to pull.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
could.
Okay. So at the request of the administration and with my consent, we're going to pull 11C at the current time. So moving on to 11D, supporting the proposed NJDOT temporary detour through Bridgewater Township due to replacement of the bridge decks of the NJDOT Somerville Road bridges over Route 78. Mr. Pappas.
The DOT, as you said by the title of the resolution, is preparing to replace a bridge. They are seeking the Township Council's endorsement of this project. There is a detour that would take, for the most part, vehicles, if they follow the detour, around this construction site, mostly out of the Bridgewater Township boundaries. But I know that there's some individuals who have expressed some concern that is this the most efficient way to approach this? Is this most appropriate for Bridgewater? The Chief Payne provided a memo, but Mr. Burr has not yet done so. So if you wouldn't mind, unless the council feels compelled to act tonight, we could maybe pull this as well.
Okay. Well,
Mr. President, may we also ask as part of, I guess, the extended report we'll get the next time, can we get some information about the likely timelines of this detour?
That was one of the reasons that he wasn't able to provide the report for tonight, is he's trying to get that from the state.
Do you need a motion to table it?
yeah, I think we can table it.
I'll
Let me
make
ask
a
you-
motion to,
Yeah, let me ask you a question. What happens if we don't adopt the resolution? Do they still move forward, right?
Correct.
So why do we even need to adopt the
It's
resolution?
a courtesy.
Frankly, I
then
think,
I have a question that you can follow up on. Many times on these highways, they'll close off certain lanes and the highway will stay open and they'll do repairs around it and they'll work overnight or whatever. Why can't they, I want to know why they can't do that here, why they need to have the detour.
This isn't for the
This is a
highway.
bridge
This is a
replacement.
bridge, this is
So
the
the whole
Somerville
bridge
Road
goes down.
bridge that goes over 78.
Yeah, first thing you do is take out the bridge and then start, so.
Well, are they going to do that? Are they going to take out the bridge? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bridge replacement.
It has to be replaced in one piece? These are engineering questions I just don't have the answer for.
I did convey that question to Mr. Burr, and he was going to make that inquiry.
I'm just not.
Motion to table 11D.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call and motion to table.
Councilman Kerr?
Yes.
Councilman Cadilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Joseph?
Yes. 11E, requesting permission for the dedication by writer for Bridgewater National Fitness Court Trust Fund required by NJ Statute 40A:4-39B. Mr. Pappas.
The council at a previous meeting adopted a resolution for this purpose. We came to learn later that the Department of Community Affairs required a different form, different verbiage within the resolution. So they returned the resolution that you had adopted, and Mrs. Madrid, and I think with Mr. Corsini's office, presenting this. I don't know if Mr. Corsini can add to anything that I've said, but it doesn't change the intent. It's just the form that they require.
Christine carried most of the water on this, and I think she did an excellent job.
And basically, this is so people can, in effect, donate things to the township where normally they cannot.
Correct.
I'll move 11E.
Second.
I think Councilman Ring was first in the second.
He guy doesn't matter.
All right. Roll call.
Play rock, paper, scissors to see.
Councilman Kerr?
Yes.
Councilman Cadilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
Yes. All right, 11F. Appointments to the Park Board, Melissa Farrow and Ashley Sikora. Anything you want to add? No?
No, just these have been presented by, I believe, Mayor Mensch.
I would just like to say we appreciate the fact that we have Bridgewater residents who have a lot of skills and are willing to participate in the life and fabric of the township. With that, I will move 11F.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Kerr?
Yes.
Councilman Cadilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Joseph?
Yes, yes, and I also, thank them for volunteering and for their service to the township. 11G, authorizing a contract award to a state contract vendor, Asphalt Paving Systems, Inc. of Hampton, New Jersey, for the 2021 pavement preservation program in the amount not to exceed $394,858, funded through the 2021 capital fund. Mr. Pappas?
Thank you, Mr. President. There are approximately 16 roads that are proposed to be treated in this manner. Again, this is meant to extend the life of roads that had previously either been constructed or reconstructed. This type of application, it's not a traditional chip seal. It is a chip seal with a coating that will provide a smoother surface. And we are hoping that they may be starting as early as next week if the council approves this.
I assume the residents will be informed
Yes, sir.
prior to. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, a comment if I may.
Sure.
This council, certainly supports a considerable investment in our roads. We've approved $8 million for construction. In many regards, this $394,000, almost $395,000, is a way that we get even more bang for our buck, because these are taking existing roads that are in reasonable condition, but need some love and care. And through this program, we can do that. I want to note with interest that a lot of the roads on this list are in the Vanderveer Milltown neighborhood. And that makes a lot of sense because that neighborhood was built about 25 years ago. Maybe some streets a little more, some streets a little less. And streets of that age need help over time. And I think this is an outstanding investment and way to extend the life of our existing roads. So if there is any other discussion, I'm happy to move this resolution.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's certainly nice to have a mayor and administration that shares this council's priority in getting our roads fixed. So thank you for that. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Padilla?
Yes.
Councilman Margada?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Schuster?
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 12. We have a public hearing tonight that was carried from June 21st. This is the 2021-2022 renewal of plenary retail consumption liquor license, number 1806-33-0201-009 for Mish-J-O Investment Corp., trading as Green Old Grill at 645 Route 22206 South in Bridgewater, New Jersey, 08807. I think there are some people here from the Green Old Grill. If you'd like, you can maybe step out. You can certainly are welcome to sit at the tables here in front.
Council President.
Yes, why don't you?
I will set the table whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let them give them a second to set up so they can listen and pay attention. Pick whatever side you want.
And if you want to move the plexiglass.
Mr. President, while they're doing that, if I could just make elaborate on the administration's plan to notify the residents for the road resurfacing or microsurfacing. Since they were able to change their schedule, again, assuming that the council approved this, Mr. Burr was able to get them to begin the process probably next week, but the first stages will be them coming with an application to fill in cracks. So that will be a rather precise process, and after some period of time, they will then come back and begin to apply stone and then the microsurfacing. So I don't think that we're going to be able to have the notification completed household by household by early or middle of next week before they begin this crack sealing, but certainly within, probably by sometime next week, before they begin the process where they'd actually ask people to remove their vehicles from the road. We certainly will ensure that they'll be notified prior to that taking place.
Okay, you want to take over?
Sure. So, Council President, Councilman, you guys have been presented with a resolution which represents the synthesis of the comments provided to my office by the police department and each of you individually. This is the resolution that is proposed for your consideration tonight. Ms. Barada, counsel for Green Oak Grill, is here, as well as her client. This is the public hearing. I encourage interaction between the council and the Green Oak Grill to discuss the terms herein in as much depth as they see fit. I would just note that upon review, there are just two very minor changes, and this will be as amended, clerk. And they're very minor, they're just really grammar. In the fourth sentence of number 1 in the substantive part of the resolution, you'll see that there's just a very minor grammatical error. There's a followed by and should be struck. And in the section 8, after consultation with the Green Oak Grill, they rightly suggest the language 21 and over should be added. Clerk, you can note those, but I will mark this up for you. And I assume that there may or may not be other changes to this, and I will add those in my changes, but we should just note them. Whatever we do move needs to be as amended. Council President, that's all yours.
Has this resolution been provided to the?
Sure. The green no-go is provided. I had a long discussion with Ms. Barata yesterday, at which point I indicated to her that she'd raised me various points. I indicated that the points are well taken, and the forum to discuss those points further is right here before you guys.
Certainly, I mean, they're here to speak for themselves, but
Sure.
do you understanding if there's consensus for the resolution or there's not?
I don't believe so. I think there are some various terms along the way that are where I think that there will be some benign discussion, and I think there'll be significant and perhaps difficult discussion about the final term 14.
Counsel, what is your name?
My name is Lisa Barata. I'm trained in Regional Girl. I'm counsel at Keys, Shinnick, and James Mosby, firm in West Orange.
Thank you for that. Why don't you provide for us, I guess, your perspective on this matter, and also what's your position on the terms of the resolution?
Sure. Thank you. My client, Regional Girl, is a long-standing business here in Bridgewater. They've met the statutory requirements for renewal for the 21-22 license term. They pay their state renewal fee, their local renewal fee, their filing a renewal application, and receive taxpayer supervision taxation. In accordance with Title 33 and NJSA 33:1-32, you as a municipal issuing authority may by resolution impose special conditions that are necessary and proper to accomplish the objectives of Title 33. I reviewed the 15 proposed special conditions, which I received on Tuesday from Mr. Corsini. Mr. Corsini and I had a discussion yesterday about my client's concerns regarding some of the conditions, and he advised that we bring them before you, here before the council tonight. There are questions my client has about why these conditions are imposed, what you're seeking to accomplish, what you're seeking to do, and my client would like to be heard with regard to some of the concerns that they have, that some of these conditions are not business-friendly, impossible, or impractical to
Ms. Barato? I've been informed by our audio video specialist that your sound's coming in low, so you might want to.
Okay,
Everyone can hear you, and especially the
Sure.
people listening by.
absolutely.
Mr. President, while we have a break, if I may, as I'm looking at this, I think on the very last page, we need to modify number 12 to number 15.
Correct.
Oh,
So just as we're going through this, as council's talking about the different items, want to make sure we don't confuse those.
Yes, the last,
why don't you-
there's a,
I'll fix that one for you as well, Linda.
Why don't you outline for me, just by looking down the resolution by number, obviously except for 12 being 15 at the bottom, but tell me which ones you have an issue with that you, I guess, don't concur with. Can you tell me the numbers first?
sure. Special condition 1, there are some requests from my client for an amendment or clarification. Do you want to talk about that now,
Why don't you outline
Council
first-
President?
Outline first for me all the.
Sure. There's a part of condition 1 contains a carryover condition from the prior license term. That's not really what my client has questions about. It's more regarding the paragraph regarding the incident and definition of an incident. What this condition is discussing is that there is an incident report due monthly by the 15th of the following month, which will detail incidents that occur on the licensed premises. And will detail the security guard's name, the hours they worked, among other things, and then discuss the incidents regarding an ejection of a patron or the removal of a trespasser or any type of incident, the way I read this. My client has shared with me that during the operation of their business, there are lots of incidents that are police calls in theory, but they're not really police matters. Somebody trips and falls, somebody chokes, there's a medical incident. We seek clarification of that language to determine whether or not we are required to put those in the incident report.
Just give me like the bullet point, and then we'll come back to all of them.
Sure. Okay. Condition 2,
discusses times regarding live music outdoors. My client is asking for some modifications to the hours and the months of the restriction, and ask that those be changed. Condition 3, my client agrees to. Condition 4, that condition is asking that my client report hourly occupancy by the hour, both inside and outside the licensed premises. We would ask that that condition be removed from the resolution or amended to allow my client to report occupancy on an evening basis. So on this evening or this day, we had this many customers, and not an hour by hour. That's impractical and almost impossible. Conditions 5 and 6, client agrees to and approves, has no concerns regarding those. They've complied with those in the past. Condition 7, there's a requirement that there only be 150 patrons outside after 1 a.m. My client would like some discussion on that and possibly an amendment to allow them to have their, continue to have their occupancy as permitted under their occupancy restrictions outside. Condition number 8, I believe Mr. Corsini has already addressed our concerns regarding wristbands for only patrons that are over 21.
That's okay?
Yes,
I
we agree
think
with that.
That's very well said. That's language that should be in there.
I'm sorry,
I
Mr.
think you're right.
Okay. Yeah, well, just for some background, my client uses wristbands to identify patrons that are over 21. So requiring all patrons to have a wristband will limit their ability to.
Just to get the council some background on this, this was a much changed provision. It used to have to do with some valet requirements, which we discussed last time, and those requirements are just obsolete. I do agree with the Green Grill on that. I think the chief will certainly do. Detective Dunlap does. So that just leaves the wristband issue, which if they're going to continue to use them, I think that the clarifying language has to be there for the.
Yes, my client currently does use wristbands to identify patrons that are over 21.
Yeah,
So-
that is a different sort of provision than it once was, but I recommend it the way that Green Grill and I have discussed, and we have discussed.
Correct. Condition number 9, we recommend that condition be removed. My client has increased the height of their fence, planted large trees many, many years ago. By imposing this condition annually, you would be requiring them to add 2 feet of fence every year. So we would ask that this condition be removed from the resolution. Condition 10. Condition 10 discusses the outdoor closure, the patio closure from starting at 6 p.m. between October 30th and March 31st. And my client asks that this condition be amended to allow them to have people sit outside, especially during the times of COVID, and allow patrons to sit outside to eat with a patio heater, or if there's a particularly warm day, so that the patrons can enjoy food outside, in line with the COVID concerns that a lot of patrons have. Condition 11, I don't see any basis for this. My understanding is noise has not been an issue at this licensed premises in many, many years. There haven't been any complaints by neighbors. I would ask that that condition be removed. Condition 12, regarding tips or similar certification. My client has trained their staff, and they continue to train their staff. We're actually in the process of scheduling another training. But we ask, instead of 30 days to train a new employee, to expand that to 90 days. Most employees have a 90-day period during which they're trained as a hostess, a server, and then potentially a bartender. We'd like the time to make sure that this employee is going to stay with us and have 90 days to train our new employees. But like I said, we're already in the process of getting new training for our employees. Condition 13 discusses SORA certification for their security guards. Currently, their 2 lead security guards are SORA certified. That's difficult to say. They are SORA certified. There's been an issue with some SORA certifications due to COVID. State Police has suspended last year their SORA certification training and licensure program. I got some spotty information when I did my research regarding the SORA certification currently in 2021. I'm anticipating backlogs and some issues with getting training. I would ask that there be some grace given with regard to timing for training of the rest of security and having them SORA certified. I also ask that my client not require the guards to be certified immediately, but within 90 days of hire for a new hire. Condition 14. This condition is related to last call. The condition as written requires last call at 1 a.m. Currently, my client does last call at 1:45. We ask that that condition be amended to allow my client to do 1:30 last call. A 1 o'clock last call is very early. It's unprecedented. It makes it impossible really to operate their business properly. We would ask that the council consider moving that last call to 1:30, and instead of language asking or allowing my client to come in 90 days for revision, could we revisit this next year at renewal as opposed to 90 days? I believe that's it. Condition 15, which I think is number 12, we have no opposition to, and we agree to.
Okay, now, Mr. Corsini, why don't you highlight for us which one of these, I guess they're being referred to as conditions, and that's fine. Which one of these paragraphs are new and which ones are pre-existing?
I'm happy to do that, Council President. In Section 1, and I did circulate to you guys a track changes copy of this. The two only live music or disc jockey, only if live music or disc jockey are employed languages are struck for Wednesday and Saturday. The language at the end that defines incident and ejection is new, because it was, there was much discussion, even including the Green No Grill, that those terms were ill-defined. That language is new. The expansion of hours requested by the Green No Grill in Section 2 would be entirely new. That would be an expansion of what you guys have permitted in the past, and that is a new request.
I'm sorry, not what they're requesting tonight, but just looking at the current 12A resolution, comparing it to the last year's resolution. So, I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood you, but number 2, what's different in number 2?
There's we have made no changes to number 2.
No changes, okay.
They're requesting a change, expansion.
I just want to focus on what we did versus this year. Go ahead.
4 includes expansion of the, any clarification of the reporting requirements, when they're due, who they're due to, what they should contain. There's no problem with 5 and 6,
Right.
and no changes. 7, the Green No Grill, we have had no changes to that, Council President. The Green No Grill is requesting that it be expanded.
8's okay.
8 is just, 8 is, we have consensus on. 9, 10, and 11 are also, pardon me. 10 is a Green No Grill requesting expansion.
I'm sorry, 9, 10,
So 9 is I guess the Green No Grill is requesting that it be struck. There were no changes that we're recommending.
asking compare this year to last year.
Likewise.
Not what they're requesting, but
Okay.
is 9 the same?
12 and 13 and 14 are new.
Wait, I'm still at 9 for some
Yeah.
reason. Is 9 the same as it was last year?
Yes.
Okay, and 10?
Likewise.
Okay, great. 11?
11 is also the same.
Thank you. Mhm.
And 12, 13, and 14 are new in their entirety.
New and entire.
And 15 is the exact same language.
15 what?
15 is the same.
Any consent? All right, so let's go back now and discuss this in detail. Why don't you tell us, let's go to number 1. Ms. Barato? Yeah, why don't you go back to number 1 now? And I think your client was looking for some clarification on these definitions.
Yeah, we're really focusing on the new part of the condition, which discusses the incident reports and what qualifies as an incident, and exactly what the board is looking for compliance. My client is a longstanding member of the community and wants to be a good member of the community that is responsive to the board's needs. So if we can narrow down or clarify what an incident is, then, that would only help us moving forward.
Why don't you tell us, based on the proposed language, what do you find that's ambiguous or perhaps you don't understand? So Mr. Corsini could address that and maybe clarify it. Why don't you explain to us what you think is?
Our concern lies with how incident is defined. It's defined in the resolution as any course of conduct on the part of either a security guard and the employee of the licensee or any agent thereof that leads to the ejection of the premises, from the premises, a patron of the licensee or a trespasser or invitee onto the licensee's premises. So for example, if someone shows a fake ID and they take that fake ID and decline entry, is that an incident?
Actually, I think Council President Ring has something on this.
Councilman.
Keith, I don't know why I do that. It's wishful thinking on my part.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I apologize. You're going with TIPS, is that what I heard? The TIPS training? You're going to do TIPS?
Yes, which is very similar to
Okay.
TIPS.
So I apologize, I'm
They're all
not
the same.
familiar with TAMS, but,
Very similar to TIPS.
Okay.
Coke and Pepsi.
so I've been in the hospitality industry for a number of years, so
Great.
familiar with TIPS. But in the TIPS program, they actually, in their part of their training that they do around incidents, they define it as an ID confiscation, a refusal of sales or service,
Right.
police contacted. I know that's something you had a question about, no, at least for myself. Police contacted. If you call an ambulance, yes, the police will show up, but you didn't call the police, you called for EMS. If you're calling for a police officer to respond, just a police officer, that would be a police response. Or if you have a situation where you have somebody who has a car there and you need to arrange transportation home for them, or you ask them to leave the premises.
Okay.
That's the TIPS definition of an incident. I don't know if that helps and would have to be wordsmithed by council, but.
So I think what I've written here, in consultation with the parties, in consultation with the chief, speaks for itself. I'll make any changes you guys want. I think that the definition is fine as is, but whatever you guys want is fine. I'll make whatever changes you guys want.
I think it's fine, too.
Can I just ask for a clarification? So you're defining an incident as an ID confiscation, a refusal of service, or police contact?
Or removal from the premises of a guest, or not allowing a guest to drive home and having to arrange transportation. Not talking about somebody that comes in an Uber or Lyft and leaves in an Uber or Lyft, but you got somebody who you stopped from driving drunk.
Yeah, I think that having defined also ejection, those incidents are covered in the definition of ejection.
Okay.
I did think that this was quite ill-defined in the first resolution, so I spent a great deal of time on this. That being said, I have no issue with the council expanding or contracting the definition as it sees fit. I just came up with one I thought was in the nature of what we had discussed and what I discussed with Detective Dunlap and Chief Payne.
I mean, does an ejection include the refusal to accept someone in because they presented a
They could have
shady
been.
license?
they
or
could have been
perhaps
there.
They don't,
So-
or they didn't present any license and they say, go away. Is
So-
that an incident?
So I will read this. Ejection shall be defined herein as a departure of a patron, invitee, or trespasser from licensee's premise at the request of an agent of the licensee, wherein the ejected party would otherwise have remained on licensee's premises but for the licensee's intervention. I think that definition is one,
Yeah,
very
but
clear.
I would think that it would be, I think it'd be appropriate to have an exclusion if they never even entered the premises. I mean, so the bouncer is going there and checking IDs, and you want the bouncer to be responsible and not let people in, right? So now you're gonna make the bouncer have to do all this extra paperwork because they let somebody in, and they have to do all this extra paperwork. I mean, every night they probably have a handful of people that they don't let in, right? I mean, do we really want to keep track of people they're not letting in?
Whatever the consensus of the governing body is, I'll make that change.
Unless there was some type of like discrimination issue, which I don't think has been. Do we really care? Do we really want to report that they're not letting somebody in? Is that like the spirit of what we're trying to do?
I don't know that that's necessarily the spirit. I use the definition from TIPS.
I understand.
And part of that alcohol training is, those are records that is recommended that they maintain for their own business purposes because they refuse somebody's service. They may come back at that individual. I don't know that we necessarily need to know that.
If a patron has entered and then they have to be expelled, I think that's a reasonable incident to track. But if someone is in line to get in, they never got in, and for whatever reason, they shouldn't be there, and the bouncer tells them, you can't come in, do you really, I mean, are we really, isn't that kind of a burden?
I really don't care if an ID is rejected. It may be rejected in error, you know, there may be an out-of-state license, and the guy says, gee, I don't like this, I'm sorry, can't let you in. I don't really care. Once they get in, if they tried to do something, then that meets the criteria as far as I'm concerned, being listed.
That's
But
kind of what I'm saying.
exactly, if they don't get in, I don't care who they
Right,
are.
if they don't get in, I mean,
Yeah.
you want them to kind of be
Yeah.
careful.
So
not to go in if they're not-
16-year-old with somebody else's license can't go.
So merely, I want a couple clarifying points. Merely reporting the incident doesn't levy any penalty on the Green Hill Grill. They merely have to report it.
Burdensome for business.
So I have no problem with that under the definition that Tim said for tips, and they're using TAMs, but that would be an incident. So I don't care. It makes no difference to
But
me.
keep in mind, that is an incident for the purpose of their business records, because they're refusing somebody's service. You know, Ms. Barada at some point may find herself having to defend the action of refusing somebody's service.
Well, I
They
mean-
want those records. I don't care whether or not.
So I would suggest,
Councilman, you say it's a business record under TIPS.
It's a recommendation for that,
But
yeah.
it's a recommendation, but there's no requirement under
Correct.
Title 33.
Correct.
Or under the ABC laws or regulations that they track somebody who they
I would then
decline
suggest
to
the
allow
language,
entry.
once granted entry, be added to the ejection definition. And that seems to be the consensus of the council.
That's fine.
Okay.
Once they're in.
Yep.
then
So
you
I will
throw
add
them
that
out.
to the last
Once
sentence.
you're in, you throw them out, that's different from not letting them in.
So whether or not someone has a fake
Once
ID or
once
you
permitted
refuse
entry.
entrance,
As if they're a trespass.
we are eliminating that.
Once permitted entry. I'll just add those words, and I think that
Is that
carves
what I'm
out.
hearing?
I don't know what the standard business practice is, right? 'Cause I don't run
That's
a
up to-
bar
yeah.
or nightclub, but,
Not yet.
I mean, I remember when I was going to bars and nightclubs at a younger age, that many people were turned away, and I don't remember like them saying, oh, wait, let me go fill out some form because someone's getting turned away. I just don't remember ever seeing that be an issue. But I don't know, I mean, if the standard now is that this is what, bars are doing or being required to do, then it's a different ballgame, but I just think it's kind of, it's not really what we were trying to accomplish.
I think
by the
that-
spirit
that-
of our changes.
That language, Council President, would get you there. Once permitted entry. That seems to be the consensus.
Yeah.
So I think we can move on.
Okay, can I just raise one other concern? Sometimes people try to get in and they're ejected. They're caught trying to sneak in.
Once they're in, I think now you have to go.
But once they're permitted entry, I understand that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Once they're in, you gotta just, that becomes too milky. Now it's in the checkbook.
Yeah, they would be a trespass under the
At
current
that point,
definition. It doesn't, it levies no penalty on them, so it's fine. I mean, I'm just saying,
I understand.
sure.
I mean, at that point,
Not penalized.
you start kind of getting kind of this gray area of what is an ejection or not, and I mean, just screen them at the door.
And are we looking for details of each incident, or are we looking for trends? I.e., do we want a report for each one of these, or do we simply want to know the numbers on a monthly basis?
Whatever the report requirement is, I don't know. It's in the resolution, right? There's a report requirement. We're going to get there to the report area.
Okay.
All right, is there anything else in number one?
I think with that language, I mean, what my client will have to, and I will have to discuss whether or not that amendment is acceptable, but if that's your decision.
I mean, I don't know, my fellow councilors, but I want you to know from the get-go that I appreciate your business in Bridgewater, the Green Oak Grill, and prior establishments under other names like the Exchange and other things. I've been there for many years. I've been in Bridgewater for practically my whole life. I've been to your facility. I've been there, since I could, and I've been there with my kids at times, during the daytime. I don't think any of us are trying to make this hard on you, but at the same time, there have been a significant number of issues involving law enforcement at the Green Oak Grill, and we can't take those for granted, right? So, wait, let's go. I guess let's go number 2. What were your issues with number 2? Times.
There's a condition regarding timing of live music, both, let's see, inside year-round with regard to DJs and outside from March 1st to November 1st. We would like a modification to allow the outside entertainment to be permitted year-round and/or expand the hours. We're talking about on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 2 hours from 12 to 2 p.m. On all 3 of those days. Fridays evenings from 4:30 to 9, Saturday from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30, and Sundays just those 2 hours, 12 to 2. So we're asking to be permitted to. This goes hand in hand with another condition regarding the outdoor areas, hours, and restrictions during the 5 months from November through the end of March. So, for example, could they have outdoor entertainment from 12 to 4 on Sundays, or additional hours on Saturday, or additional hours on Friday?
My initial, everyone here has their own opinion, and we all have a vote that carries the same weight. But my initial thought is that if you guys had come here with a year that was fairly good without incidences, and I think this governing body is always open to flexibility, but I mean, the past year has your record of police episodes at the Green Oak Grill has been relatively high, which is why we even are having this discussion. And so my thought would be that this is not the time to add additional times. But hopefully, I will certainly give you the incentive to have better control of what's going on there, so that maybe next year we can consider something like that. But that's how I feel. But everybody else certainly have their say.
I have a question for my own. Sorry.
I think Howard was going to.
I would offer that in the years that I've been on council, Green Oak Grill, we can hold it up as the worst offender of all of the food establishments we have in this town, by far. And the issue of the police reports, from my perspective, in sort of paralleling the president's comments, if you folks came back next year and you had a clean slate for all prior months, and then I would entertain relaxing. But at this point, what you're saying is, all right, we've had a problem, we've got lots of problems evidently, but we want more time to be able to do more things. And I personally could not support that. In fact, I'm not going to, if anything, I'd be looking at these and say, let's chop them down a little bit. But I'm not going to offer that. I'm going to say I will not support additional expansion of the hours because of the track record you folks have had over many months.
In the past 16 months, the hospitality industry has really been, if not the most impacted industry due to COVID, one of the top 5.
I can't
and
lay
we had
everything
5
on
months
COVID.
where my
Yeah,
client.
please, we can play the COVID card continuously and say we have to do this because everybody suffered under COVID.
Obviously.
But that's not an excuse for bad behavior.
For 5 months, they didn't serve from the bar. They were closed
The
for a
scary
large
part is you were
portion.
closed for that part, but
And
look.
I don't see police reports, I don't see testimony, I don't see, I haven't been made aware of any incidents. And when I say incidents, I mean serious incidents that would give rise to a disciplinary matter. And I'm struggling to understand the feelings that, and the concerns when there hasn't been a notice of charges or an incident, a serious incident in years.
Ms.
Would you
Bravado,
consider a stabbing to be a serious?
I don't know anything about that, and neither does my
Was
client.
there an ABC issue with the license over the past year and a half?
They have no notice of charges. They haven't been given a notice.
Did the ABC suspend the license last year?
No, they did not. ABC did not suspend the
We
license.
received notification that the license was suspended last year from the state
You received a notice of charges from an incident 6 years ago.
with a 30-day suspension.
That matter has not been resolved.
Okay.
That matter has not gone to trial. That is a notice of charges. So until that matter is resolved, and truthfully, the core of that matter is a criminal incident with regard to a security guard allegedly injuring a patron, and that security guard went to trial and was found not guilty after a criminal trial. So I'm not sure exactly what's being discussed here, but I'm not aware of it, and neither is my client. If you'd like to have discussions, we're willing to have discussions. We've offered to meet with members of council. We've met with the chief of police and the detective a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Corsini, Ms. Doyle, Mr. Pappas. We were in a room and we were there to discuss concerns, and no specific concerns were raised other than we have concerns. So if we don't have specifics and we don't have any suspensions or findings of violations, then I'm struggling with what standard are we being held to, and what are we responsible for if we have no suspensions?
All right, well, I'm kind of struggling with something myself, which is really your lack of knowledge as to what goes on your client's facility, because a couple of reasons. Number one, we had this matter was on our agenda. I don't know how many weeks ago was it?
2 meetings ago.
Meetings ago. We notified your client that we were going to have a hearing on the Green Oak Grill. We had the police department here, we had the chief, the detective.
Who provided testimony.
Who provided testimony, who provided the facts, who provided the history of incidences, the long history of, I don't cut you off, I ask for the same respect. Provided a long history of incidences that happened at the Green Oak Grill. And as you say, in a time period during COVID, where business has been weaker, where you have been closed for a while. And these are incidences where the police show up at your client's facility. And so how can your client not know that these things are happening? And if your client doesn't know, then it's even scarier because your client has an obligation to know when the police show up and something is going on there. So I'm not really very moved by your statement of this. I don't know what's been going on. I don't know why we're here. I'm just not touched by that. I don't find it to be very credible. I don't think how can you not know?
Council President, just because a police officer shows up at a licensed premises, that doesn't necessarily mean a violation has occurred. So if somebody is removed from the bar because they're cursing on a Sunday afternoon and using inappropriate, racist, hateful language, and they get outside and they say, I'm going to call the police because you just removed me from the bar, that's not a chargeable incident. That's not a violation under Title 33.
I'm going to read this to you. I'm going to read this to you, the memo from the police from
I haven't received a copy of a memo, and I object to the reading of something that I haven't
It was here on the record a couple weeks ago. You guys didn't show up. You chose not to show up.
Well, I wasn't retained at that point, Council President.
Your
We're here now, and we've met
client, Your
with...
client could have been here, and she could have retained you earlier. All right, so I'm going to read this for you because it's already part of the record. From the time period beginning of January 2020 to May 17th of 2021, the police department responded to 7 assaults, mostly involving security staff and patrons being removed from the property, several resulting in minor injuries. 1 aggravated assault involving a fight in the parking lot that resulted in a stabbing. 3, verbal disputes between staff and patrons, again, usually involving the removal of a patron from the premise. 3, harassment/threat calls involving staff and patrons. 8, possible noise/violations of the COVID executive orders. And the detective represents that he has spoken many times to the management at the Green Oak Grill. So I just want to give you that information so that you have it.
Can the council provide me with police reports regarding all of those alleged incidents and the facts surrounding them?
I'm sure that's all public information, ma'am. I'm sure you can obtain them yourself, but right now, let's see how far we get along this issue today, and let's see if how the council will act. All right, so so number 2, is anybody else on the council wish to address item number 2?
I have a
which is the
question.
times?
I just, having not been involved in prior discussions involving the Green Old Grill, I guess my question is on the indoor entertainment. There's a restriction that prohibits a DJ prior to 10 p.m. I just wasn't sure why a DJ can't perform at 9 but can perform at 10.
Well, I think that goes back to the long history. I mean, just go on Google, and search Green Oak Grill noise violations, and I think it goes back to a long history of just the noise issues that we've had tons of residents over the years. Even before my time on the council, I remember just being aware of things going on. The crossroads across the street, many residents were complaining about noise, and I think that that just limited the time period for them to be generating noise. So that's basically, I think, the logic behind that. Unless somebody else wants to add something. And Howard's been here longer than I have. I've been here for 10 years, and Howard's been for longer. So Howard and Alan.
Well, don't forget, this is an amalgam of restrictions that date back a long time to the point when patrons for Green Oak Grill were parking across the street in the development. There were issues of reported public urination when people went across the street to retrieve their car. But none of those things are embedded in the results of that represent the compendium of restrictions. And in an attempt by this township to improve the behavior at the grill of not only the patrons but the participants, and to lessen the impact on our police department. If our guys are sitting out there trying to worry about this, they're not doing their job in other places.
All right. Anybody else want to add a comment on number 2? Let's keep moving because we have a lot of things to talk
Mr.
about.
President, I have one broad-based comment. I think that what I'm looking for is a middle ground where we can have Green Oak Grill continue to be a successful business in this community, but at the same time not be a threat, candidly, to the safety and well-being of our police officers, and potentially a threat to the safety and well-being of the motoring public, particularly as it relates to overconsumption and the possibility that those become drunk driving incidents. Those are really, from my standpoint, the table stakes that we need to establish, how we can provide protection for our police officers so that when or if or when they go to your establishment, that they are not going to be in harm's way, and that we can have a better handle on the significant concerns that have been raised with overconsumption.
All right, I guess we'll move on to item number 4. I guess you find the reporting of hourly occupancy to be burdensome. Anything you wanted to add on item number 4?
Sure. Special condition 4 related to the hourly occupancy reported in the incident report. First of all, people move freely between the inside and outside areas. It's almost impossible to have exact numbers. They keep track of the number in the premises so they don't exceed occupancy. They've always done that. There's been no allegations or incidents regarding filling the premises to an overcapacity or allowing the crowds to build. In fact, due to COVID, there hasn't been massive crowds. So we would ask that an occupancy number be only required to be reported for the evening, not an hour-by-hour occupancy, and inside and outside occupancy.
So hourly occupancy, Council President, was in the prior resolution, whatever occupancy the council, whatever time frame you guys desire is what we'll put in?
Have they been reporting it?
No.
That's what I was going to say.
Green Hill Grill submitted no
Even
reports
though-
in living memory.
I don't know if you're aware that the prior requirement was for a monthly report, and as far as we know, we've not been getting any reports.
My client has advised me that they had been submitting reports for a while, and then for the last few years, they hadn't because they were told and advised by someone when they had dropped the reports off that they weren't required to do so anymore. The best I can piece together is that that is what's happened, and they were renewed subsequent to not submitting reports. I will tell you that we will submit reports going forward to the appropriate chief and municipal clerk, but they believe that they weren't required to do it anymore because they had been renewed without any question. But if the municipality and the Township of Bridgewater wants reports, they will get the report.
What's the intent behind the hourly reports? Does anyone remember?
I have a question.
Hourly count.
And what do we do with how many people were in the
Right.
building?
I think there's an occupancy that the Green Old Grill cannot exceed.
Correct.
And if that occupancy is like 150 people or so, there's 150 people going in and out. I think an hourly report is a lot to ask. I'd prefer to get a report that, that says, on Thursday, we had a max of 120 people. On Saturday, we had 150 people.
Let me ask you a question. Why do we even care, period, about how many people were in the establishment?
I'm wrestling with that, but.
This is an existing condition.
But I do know that what I'm more
Well, in
concerned
the
with,
past, there were concerns about occupancy, over-occupancy.
over occupancy, I'm more concerned about that.
But,
But if we're within the occupancy
Send the
limit,
fire inspector there more often.
yeah. If there's an over-occupancy issue, that's not something that this body can take action on. That's got to go through the administrative side, through the fire official. So,
You have
Tim,
recourse for
Councilman
that.
Green, I would say to you, looking at the document that we have, there are things that we've discussed in the past
correct. So,
about the fire official, the health official, looking at going to the Green Old Grill and doing decibel readings on noise. I forget what the numbers were, but there's a noise limit that was always checked. That is absent in this also. But I do feel that I'd just like to know if you have an occupancy limit, that you're keeping the occupancy limit.
Council President, Councilman Cardillo, if I may, your resolution, and these are all existing conditions which are in the current renewal, caps them at 150 outside. That's in term 7 in the patio and terrace area. I do believe that is below the regulatory limit that the fire inspector. That is a so-called artificial limit you guys have set because of prior, with Councilman Nogales did say, prior issues. So you are setting the limit. Do you know what your limit is outside? I think you mentioned it in our meeting. It's more than 150. It's like 2 something, right?
The special condition number 7 requires no more than 150 after 1 a.m.
what is it before 1 a.m.? What's the fire
I
occupancy?
believe their occupancy outside is 250 or 230. 2:30. She says they don't even come close to that.
Yeah, so that's in there now. It isn't at 7.
I mean, there's no enforcement provision, like, if they exceed the 150, like, there's no penalty or nothing.
Yes, there is. There is 15.
Oh.
Provision 15 is a penalty for any violation of your regulation.
Are we jumping to 7, or are we still on 4?
We're on 4.
Well, no, 7 and 4 are related because Councilwoman Cardilla asked about, and
Gotcha.
Councilman Ring brought up the self-policing nature of this with regards to the fire inspector. That is not necessarily the case because you have a limit in here that is less than what they are allowed at a certain point of the day.
Okay.
So that is the genesis of that, and that
So what
4
if-
and 7 probably could be combined into one, quite frankly.
How are they going to count the patrons in the establishment?
I think they're using a clicker. You noted you were using a clicker.
Not get in, but how do you count people inside?
They have to go through the door.
I know that, but then they leave too, right? How
Yeah,
do you
but
count the people?
you can only access the patio from inside.
Part of
or-
the
No.
responsibility is to count people coming in and then, keep track going out. So
You keep
it's a
track
tough task.
So,
Keep track going out too?
Yes, they keep track with a clicker. Their security guards keep track of people coming in and people going out so they don't exceed occupancy. But whether those people are outside and then go inside to use the restroom and go back outside, or they're inside eating and after they're done eating, they stand outside for a little bit and talk to a friend. I mean, that's the kind of overburdensome requirement that they're struggling with. If it's a matter of exceeding occupancy, you do have the ability to, send the fire inspector in, but at no time have they exceeded occupancy.
So since you have an occupancy requirement irrespective of this issue, right, you have fire codes to comply with. You have to keep track of your occupancy no matter what. In order for you to know that, you have to do math. You have to look at the clicker, look who came in, like what's the number difference, and what's the number coming out, and there's some math involved in that, right? I mean,
It's a
so-
clicker, in and
Right,
out,
well, in order
yes.
to know how many people are inside the establishment, you have to do the math. So if at 10 o'clock, the clicker shows 1,150,
We
because
wish.
you're clicking nonstop, right? The whole day, you're clicking nonstop, right? So people have left. I'm not saying that that's how many are in there. People have left. You're not resetting are you resetting the clicker every hour?
My client is just advising me that people line up, hopefully, outside. When they come through security, they're clicked in as being registered as coming in so they can keep track of their numbers, and they get a wristband if they're over 21. They haven't come close to these numbers in the last 16 months. However, they do make sure that they comply with this condition in the past, which was 150 people outside after 1 a.m., no more than that.
Excuse me 1 second. I want to get to just finalize my point. So people are coming in
Correct.
at whatever start time you start counting people, right? When do you start counting people?
At about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night.
8:30, whatever. You start clicking 1, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th. By the time the night is over, that clicker has the number's a lot higher than you have inside the establishment, right? Because people are leaving.
I think you're right.
they're probably, the number grew. Oh.
My point is,
He's also my client's telling me that when people leave, they are subtracted from.
Well, would it not be
but
an
you have several
academic?
doors, don't you have several doors? How do you keep?
No, their
No,
entry
one entry.
increases one door. Yeah,
The resolution
That's
requires
required.
one
One
door.
entry.
It would seem that the head count is an easy issue. At 10 o'clock, you look at the number here. Okay.
So your clicker has the current count inside the establishment.
Yes. Yes, the head of security keeps track of the number of patrons inside, correct.
So it's not really that difficult to write that down.
Hourly, though, as required in the condition?
I mean, a bouncer can have a piece of paper taped on the wall and just writes the number down. Poll workers do account for elections.
It is interesting, Council President, they did note that they do click out. You click out too, right? You said?
Yeah.
So then there's no
Security
reason.
clicks
Track
out.
one to the other, and you got your
It's
occupancy.
actually not as difficult as I thought.
Inside versus outside also?
Well, that's, how do you count inside and outside? It's just one place, really.
I think if I understand, and again, recognizing this is my first time sitting through a Green Old Grill hearing, but the intent on number 7 is obviously a number of people outside and noise. And the way number 7 is written right now, if I've got 150 people at 1 o'clock and 10 of them leave, I can still let 10 more outside. And rather than counting how many are outside, I would support something that says after 1 a.m., no one else is allowed outside. So if 20 people leave at 1:15, you can't allow, they're gone. Once they come inside, once they get in their car, they leave. So really by 1:30, you could actually decrease your occupancy outside substantially, as opposed to counting how many people go in and out from outside. If we did that and said, you know, whoever's outside at 1 o'clock, they can stay outside till closing, but nobody else can go outside, we eliminate the need for occupancy, and we can potentially eliminate number 4.
Part of the
People need to go inside to use the
limitation to the
restroom.
150 was the outside noise issue and the impact on the people across the street.
Correct.
So, but if you had 250 people in there at 8:30, and you said, okay, unless they leave, you could theoretically have those same 250 people right up until closing, outside.
You could also theoretically have 150 from 1 o'clock on till 2 o'clock,
Yeah, but.
or you
the
could
fact
also
that-
have
but the issue
75.
is to make sure there are no more than 150 people outside, because that's the noise issue. It's not to say, hey, they can't have drinks or they can't have drinks, that kind of thing. It was a noise issue.
People tend to move freely inside to use the restrooms and come back outside. So
Okay.
it's almost impossible to say, once you go in to use the restroom, you can't go back outside. Again, my client hasn't come close to these numbers in quite a decent amount of time. We were, looking to, talk about overcrowding, which really hasn't been an issue. And of course, we're here to work with you, but I just feel like an hourly report of occupancy is a little burdensome.
What changes, if any, does the council propose to 4? And I think we can also loop 7 in on this.
I would support eliminating 4.
Whatever you guys want.
What's the right side? Councilman Argalas? What are your thoughts on
Which one?
4? I mean, we're talking about 4 and then in combination with 7 because there's sort of a nexus there.
I quite honestly, at this point, would not want to, and I realized, I didn't realize how easy it is to keep track of the occupancy by taking the difference between the two clickers. And I agree with you that a stroke sheet on the hour with the two numbers by subtraction provides where you want to go. I don't feel comfortable based on past behavior that the client deserves a reduction in the requirements at this point. That's as blatant as I can make it. I'm not looking, I don't want them to go out of business. But I need them to be better corporate citizens. And we've crafted this thing and recrafted it over the years. The issue of the 150 outside, that was a number that was arrived at because of the noise. I don't know how many, if we've even had any noise complaints. Obviously not, because we haven't had a lot of occupancy there because of COVID, unfortunately. But the business will return. And basically, we're not building this for what's there right now. We're building this for now and the future.
From what I'm hearing, Sperato, from your side, is that you guys never even come close to the 150. That's what I kind of gathered, right? That's not even.
Generally, there's not an issue with requiring people to leave at 1 a.m. from the outdoor area to bring the number down to 150. That's generally not a concern.
So number 7 really isn't much of an issue then, because it seems like It just states that it has to be no more than 150, and there's nothing else really in that paragraph that makes it burdensome for you guys. So the issue is number 4, I think, which is, does this governing body want them to keep track? You know, what is the objective of number 4, right? Is the objective to
I did,
keep their occupancy at a certain level, or is the objective, because just getting the data, making them gather data that has no purpose is just excessively burdensome for business, right? We don't, and that's not what we want to do, I don't think. So what is the purpose of tracking their numbers? We get this data, okay, they had 70 at this time and 85 an hour later, and like, okay, like, so what? What are you going to do with it? I think, I mean, if you're going to set, then set a number, like that they're entitled to a maximum X number, but why make them report that they had 20 patrons this time and 50 another time? And I, you know, then I have another issue, which is that I don't, and I get why it's here, but I don't think businesses should be reporting back to the government what their, you know, what their business numbers are, like what the revenue is and what their, well, I guess they do for taxes, but this, I don't know, it just seems like we're asking for too much information that we have no use for.
May I ask a question? Do I understand correctly that at any given time, you should be able to know how many patrons are on premise?
yes, my client has advised me.
You know,
Anything, you set a limit as to that.
After 8:30 p.m.
after 8:30.
Right.
You know, to me, that's, you know, likely sufficient. You know, you know, there needs to be some codification of what the maximum number is.
Right, that's what I think is more useful than having them report a number.
The maximum number now is whatever the fire code allows, except for after 1 o'clock, which is 150 outside.
There's never been any allegation of occupancy, exceeding occupancy and violating occupancy requirements.
Just to clarify, we say the fire code, but God forbid we find ourselves back in a COVID situation, it could be less than the fire code, which is why counting is so much easier today, because clickers have become, the supermarkets had a click away for months too. People have gotten better at it. But
Just one other clarifying question. If there were an incident, it would seem to me that the number of patrons in the establishment at the time of the incident may be relevant. If our police are called over there and were to ask how many patrons are in this establishment right now, would that information be provided to them?
So I just want to make sure I understand your question, Councilman. If there's an incident where police are called and the police get there and they see the head of security at the door and they say how many people are inside, can the head of security answer that question? Or how many people are on the premises?
Yeah.
Yes, he
Because
can.
I feel like that's relevant, is not, you know, if everything is going according to plan and well, I don't know that knowing that number adds a lot of value. I think if there is an incident, I think that could be material to what's going on at the premise for our police to potentially know at that moment, well, you know, how many people are here, what's going on.
There's 110 people on the premises versus a requirement to report there's 110 people between 10 and 11 p.m. and between 11 and 12 p.m. There's 97 people, and between midnight and 1 a.m. there's 93 people. My client has asked that the hourly reporting requirement be amended and removed. I don't see how it's necessary and proper under Title 33 to require hourly occupancy reporting. As far as my research has revealed, there's no other licensee in Bridgewater that has to report hourly occupancy.
I think Councilman Nogales already touched on some of that stuff. I've been struggling with what we do with this data and why we're gathering this data. So that's what I'm kind of, I don't, I understand what you're saying, but what's the purpose of
Can be provided if it's needed, that would satisfy me, rather than just having a whole lot of data points.
Yeah, I mean, what, if we're gonna, making them report, then there has to be a purpose for the report. I mean, it's just not just making them do stuff.
You know, if I'm not mistaken, there was a floor plan, a table arrangement, or a floor plan that was required for the seating outside, that would set the occupancy limit outside of the patio. Forgive me, I know it's referenced in here someplace, but it's not attached to this. And I would think that the seating that we had provided in the past sets the limit for the number of people outside.
But they don't have to sit now.
Well,
They can stand.
they can stand, but after 1 o'clock, there could only be 150 people outside. And I think, to my logic, I agree with Howard. Over the years, the main complaint was noise from the patio. We had live music out there, and we had people across the street complaining about it. And I think my feeling is that if we limit the outside seating per the paragraph 7, you know, for after 1 o'clock, I think we accomplished that goal. And as far as the occupancy of the establishment, you know, there's a maximum occupancy, no matter how you cut and slice it. As long as they don't exceed, as long as the Green Knoll Grill doesn't exceed the maximum occupancy, as Howard said, they can be standing outside. Yeah, you could be. But at 1 o'clock, there's only 150, max of 150 people outside. You know, then if they migrate inside, they're still within the occupancy of the building. I don't know what the problem is. And I think the hourly report, you know, what are we gonna do with it?
Nothing.
I think the concern is you have an occupancy limit, you maintain it, and at 1 o'clock, no more than 150 people outside.
So I think Councilman Cardilla has, in as much as I think is possible, come to a synthesis of the thoughts that are up here, and that would reflect in the resolution the striking of paragraph 4 in its entirety and the keeping of paragraph 7, the retention of paragraph 7, with the exception of the middle sentence, which refers to paragraph 4.
Yeah, I think the consensus that I'm hearing, except for Councilman Regalis at this point, although I haven't heard from Councilman Kirsch, what I'm hearing the consensus forming is that the removal of the hourly requirement report, maintaining the rest of paragraph 4 and maintaining paragraph 7 in its entirety. Is that what you guys are? Is that your thought, Councilman Ring?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to, to amend my statement, the first sentence of paragraph 4 would be retained. That's it.
Okay.
Wait, what? The license agrees that during the days and times provided in paragraph 2.
The one primary entrance. I think you guys want to keep
You're
that.
looking,
My client currently complies with that. There is only
Yeah.
one primary
There's
entrance.
no reason not to keep it.
Yep.
No objection to that.
Right.
I have to come up with a final product here, so I just need to know if that's what.
I mean, that's what I heard 3 people say so far, which is a majority, so I'm not even sure if I need to get Councilman Kirsch, but I'd like to get it, out of respect for his opinion.
I stated my position here, you know, as long as they can know at any time and ask how many are in the establishment, that's sufficient for me.
Okay.
So,
All right, so that's at least 4. All right,
Council
so,
President, if I may, 5, 6, and 7 have already either been discussed or are not contested,
Yeah.
as well as 8.
yeah, I'm moving on. I got it. All right. Paragraph 9, you wanted to remove the fence height requirement, landscaping issue.
I think, Council President, Council's concern was that the way this is written, they would have to add an additional 2 feet to
Right.
what's there. I think perhaps instead of removing this as per their request, if in the second sentence, we simply change the word from adding to maintaining. And therefore, it requires you to maintain what's there, but you would not have to add additional. Would that be acceptable?
Absolutely. It's already there.
Why
Yeah.
don't we decide how high we want the fence to be, and then simply say that?
Well, how high is the fence there now?
Is it 8 feet now? Was
Well,
it 6 to
the
start with?
plants have to be 2 feet taller than the fence.
Right.
Yeah, and that's been there, I bet you half a dozen years.
It's well-grown.
So I think someone should find out what the height of the fence is. So whatever it is now, we
That-
maintain
that's what
it.
that's what we ought to
The
put in.
landscaping will be 2 feet over the fence, and that's, so it's,
So, counsel, you'll provide that to me?
I'm sorry, my client was advising me that they planted all new trees 4 years ago, and
Okay.
along that fence line along 206. I'm sorry, what was your question, Mr.?
I think the consensus of this body is that just provide me the current height of the fence, and that will be the condition. We would require it to be maintained at its status quo. Is that accurate, counsel? So just, if you could provide that to me, counsel, I'll insert that in.
Councilman Padilla, good?
Yeah,
We can get that information to the council as to what the current height of the
I
fence is.
think that addresses your concern.
All right, moving on to number 10. Outdoor closures. Yeah, you want to change the time of the closure time? Yeah, I think with this one, I'm with Councilman Orgalis. I'm not really, at this point, very amenable to adding additional times, I think, because of the history, but I'll let other people. Who else wants to give a comment on this? Yeah, you? Number 10.
10.
Number 10.
Councilman Padilla? You want to have number 10?
I'm okay.
You okay with the way it is?
Yeah,
That's 3.
I have no desire to change.
All right, that's 4.
So my opinion is, I'm out.
Your opinion always matters.
This is a living document.
Correct.
Next year, if everything goes well, we can make changes to it. It's not in stone, it's on paper.
I agree.
Actually, it's on.
If you want my, I
Yes,
would.
it is.
All right, moving on to item 11. They say there's no basis for 11.
There have been no recent complaints regarding noise. The Township Council always has the ability to inquire of my client and require its compliance with zoning and fire code regulations. It's duplicative, it's not necessary and proper pursuant to Title 33.
I don't really see any harm or foul in keeping it. It doesn't really provide any obligations on the Green Oak Grill to really do anything. It just gives other people the right to monitor noise levels and stuff.
And this was to provide a timeliness so that if there was a serious series of incident, the council could react immediately as opposed to wait a year when the license comes up.
Yeah.
That's why it's there.
I don't really see, again, based on the history and based on what's happening in recent history, I don't really see this to be the right time to really remove that. But again, I'm amendable next year to getting rid of some of these things. But anybody else want to add their feedback on number 11? Be shy. I have 2, so I need 3 at least. Councilman Cardilla. Councilman Ring.
I think the comments regarding inspections that exists already through other forms. I think to Councilman Norgalis's part, the fact that this allows us to look at any issues for modification as a result of noise complaints or other issues relative to this at the time as opposed to waiting for renewal. I think that's the important piece. And if, the applicant is, the license holder is agreeing to comply with everything else in this document, this inclusion in there shouldn't be an issue because it should never come to that.
All right, so we got 3. Anybody else want to share their opinion? Councilman Kirsch and Cardillo? Agree. Okay, so we got 4. All right. Moving on to item number 12. The Grill would like to change the 30 days to 90 days.
It's really for 12 and 13. Well, there's no time on 13, but they want 90 days on
I want
13 too.
13, exactly.
As one who suggested the inclusion of these items, I would support that.
You okay?
I'll go along with that.
Go along with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm okay with that too, so.
Can I just mention to the council, if there is an issue getting all of the Green Hill Girls security guards SORA certified due to state police not doing licensure, I will contact Mr. Corsini and advise him of that difficulty.
I think as long
I
as
think
there's-
Mr. Ring did some actually independent research here.
Yeah, according, full disclosure, these were two items I suggested, so.
absolutely.
He's in the industry.
If you go.
I
on-
actually suggested them also to my client before this resolution was even given to
So,
me.
if you actually go on New Jersey State Police, who does this, according to their website, SORA training, first of all, the state does a train the trainer for SORA.
Right.
You can contract, much like you contract with TIPS or TRAMP, any of that other training, with someone privately do the training.
Sure.
They are also giving a waiver right now, or they were 30 days ago when they went out, that you could do the training virtually.
Right.
You know, I think though, on any one of these, because of COVID, if you can document a reasonable effort to comply, I think it is something we would certainly consider, or at least I would.
What about the fingerprint?
That's done, that is part of the SORA registration. So there's two parts
So
to
that
it.
isn't being delayed, is that being delayed?
Well, you might be delayed depending upon state police processing.
Yeah, okay.
But, you know, there's two parts to SORA. You have to complete training, which is done through a third-party vendor, and then you have to register and be fingerprinted and a background check by the state police.
Correct.
All right.
And I just want to note for the council that their two head security guards are currently SORA certified.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Corsini has that 90 days for both the
We got it.
13. Good. All right, moving on to 14. The Green Hill Grill wants to change the last call from 1 a.m. as proposed, and they're asking for 1:30 a.m. They're currently doing 1:45.
What's the current?
Currently, they're doing 1:45 a.m.
There's
We are,
a new condition, Councilman.
we are seeking 1 a.m. in the proposed resolution, and they are asking, they say that they're asking for 1:30 a.m. last call. Who wants to jump in on this?
I don't want to change it. I don't want to change it.
I think the feeling was that we would revisit this issue at some point.
Even if we did 6 months from now.
We would revisit that.
It's 90 days in your resolution. That was,
90 days? Okay,
that was the
that's
request you made.
whatever it is.
You
Okay.
made to me. So we can do whatever you want. You want to add it? You want to subtract
No,
it?
we can revisit it in 90 days, but I mean, so obviously it's fluid. We're not, you know, understand the issue, but. What do you guys?
Go ahead.
Councilman Cardillo? No, have any comment?
You know, based on our past discussions and everything, I think 14 is reasonable.
If there's a majority, I'm willing to split the difference. You know, I think that if 1:15 is last call, that gets everybody hopefully safely on their way by 2 a.m. If there's a majority for that.
I mean, last call is defined as last drink served, not the announcement.
They can still be open
The
to,
last call has got to be before 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
When they announced last call, before 1 o'clock, right?
Right,
And
so
the last
preparation
drink-
needs
this
to
is about
be
the last-
whether it's 1 or 1:15 or 1:30 or.
Right,
whatever it is.
we're talking about really the last drink served.
Yes.
So the last
I
drink
went to great lengths because there was much discussion about this
Yes.
last time.
Yeah,
In
so-
getting it exactly as you guys wanted it.
Yeah,
Well, the
so,
bottom line, if you announce last call just before 1 o'clock, then what Mike, if I understand you correctly, Mike, what you're saying is the last drink could be served no later than 1:15.
They could announce last call.
Whenever they want.
They can announce last call. You know, I think our concern is when is the last drink served?
The last beverage, based on the feedback you guys gave me, the last beverage is in the hand of the patron The last patron is served at 1 o'clock. They can still be open, and I think we encourage them to be open to
They
2
get
to.
to drink it.
Yeah, I encourage.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Counsel, there was a recommendation from the police department for a much earlier closing?
Yeah,
10 o'clock.
Theirs was very aggressive, obviously.
10 o'clock.
Although, Ms. Barada and I did a quick content analysis of some other bars, and there are a couple that do close at 10. Now, there are different circumstances.
There are plenty that close at 2 a.m. also.
Only one other in this town.
Only one.
In Bridgewater.
AC
And
Hotel is the
until-
only one.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
The AC Hotel is the only one with a 2 o'clock.
And I believe there's a new establishment that's opening today that has a posted 1 a.m. closure, but will stay open past that because they're permitted to.
What
That's actually,
location
that's
is that?
That's
attached to the AC
Tommy's, but
Hotel.
I'm not-
Tommy's. Same, they're,
So regardless,
I mean,
there's 1, 2, or 3. It's not the majority of establishments.
Last call, I mean, there's no requirement in the law for any bar owner to announce last call. That's not a statutory requirement or a regulatory requirement under Title 33. So bars traditionally make last call. There's usually a process they go through. They announce last call. Those drinks are served. They begin to give indicia to their patrons that they're closing. They put chairs on tables. They put house lights on. The music stops. There's a movement in the establishment to indicate to the patrons that it's time to wrap up, pay your bill, and use the restroom and head your way out the door. Patrons then traditionally now go and sit outside and wait for their Ubers to arrive. And that's something new. And that process is usually a well-timed, almost mechanical process to get everybody strategically moved out the door in unison. My client is willing to move last call from 1:45 to 1:30, but again, there's still a process by which that they will remove their patrons. There's a process in which they'll serve those last drinks and move everybody out.
No, we're talking about last drink, the time that the last drink is served. And your client needs to have the business sense to know when to announce the last call, because the last drink needs to be served by the time that we're talking about.
so we should eliminate any reference to last call in 14, streamline 14 to say no drinks shall be served after X time, and let them make the business decision, because if there's 200 folks in the bar, they might want to give last call earlier than if there's 15 people sitting at the bar.
Councilman Ring, it does say that. They can just pick whatever time they want.
Well,
I just wanted to make it clear about,
Let's say that.
okay.
that's 100% their decision.
All right.
And they can still serve food and non-alcoholic beverages till 2 o'clock.
They're
We encourage them
generally
to do
not
that.
serving food after midnight.
If I was there for a drink, I would not want to, somebody say, well, I'm sorry, last call has had it, and you're not entitled to a drink.
I mean,
So the expectation, the last call, I think, is an important business statement.
the 1 a.m. was selected because of what's been happening
Mike-
there over the past, 12, 15 months. And again, we put this 90-day time period here because obviously we don't want to limit their ability to sell the primary product. But at the same time, we really need the Green Oak Grill to kind of pick up their enforcement and just their sense of keeping that place, trouble-free. And that's, and so we're the idea behind that was that, we really wanted to give them an incentive to sort of get into that habit, having this 90-day period, and then we'd revisit the issue and hopefully extend their last drink time to a later time period. Because I certainly understand, you guys make money by primarily, you sell food, but alcohol sales is an important part of your business model. I guess we had discussed this before. I'm okay keeping it as is, only because we have the 90-day provision. I wouldn't be okay keeping it permanently, but I would be okay keeping it for 90 days, seeing improvement at the Green Oak Grill, and then, giving them, maybe even giving them 130 after 90 days, as long as we see, we see improvement there with enforcing rules, maintaining security.
Submitting
Right, I mean,
reports,
think
submitting
about-
reports,
why
submitting
don't we-
Some of
reports.
these reports haven't been done like ever. And as long as we start seeing compliance and seeing that, some good neighbor activities going on here, I think we give them, I mean, I'm okay going to 130 in 90 days as long as, the Green Oak Grill is complying with other things. And look, I don't expect this place to be trouble-free. That's not my personal expectation. You guys you have a bar, you have a slash quote nightclub practically there. It attracts people that are younger, and I mean that's just the reality. There's going to be certain issues there, but right now I really feel like it hasn't been very tightly controlled by the establishment. And there's no compliance with reports. There's been no effort. There's been no communication by the Green Oak Grill as to why they can't comply with reports. It's been just ignoring the prior resolutions. The history is not very good here. I just really want to see some progress. That's what I want personally. I don't want to handicap your business, but I just want to see some progress. Anyway, what's the thought on 14? Let's go down the line. Councilman Cordella.
Compliance is always an act of compromise. And we're looking at one. The occupant is asking for 130. I would agree with Councilman Kirsch that I would accept the 115 for last drinks.
I'll go with 1 o'clock with the option that they can return in 90 days. And if we're satisfied that there has been significant improvement, then I would consider moving it to 115. But right now, I would leave it at 1 o'clock.
Councilman Ring.
So I've got two pieces I'm struggling with. The way 14 is written, it says the licensee shall issue a last call for patrons to be place orders for the final dispensing of alcoholic beverages at a period prior to 1 hour before their designated closing time.
Announce last call.
Hmm?
Announce last call.
Correct.
Right, because they close at 2, we had a last call at 1, you have to make an announcement before 1.
Yeah.
But they can't serve. actually.
So if we're talking about 115, I just want to clarify. At a 115 time, are we saying they're making their last call at 115, or are we?
According to the way this is written, last
Period.
call has to be, according to the way this is written, and if all we're doing is changing the 1 o'clock to 1:15, they would still have to do last call no later than 1 a.m.
Okay, so
Announce last call, but they could still serve.
until 115.
They could do the last call at 12:45. I mean, just
They get the pay.
as long as
The last call is
alcohol
said,
stops flowing at
So
1:15.
I guess what I have a hang up here is the first sentence of 14. It says they have to do their last call 1 hour beforehand.
no.
Yeah, the licensee shall issue a last call for patrons, blah, blah, a period.
So I would have to change that language, Councilman, because they
Yeah,
can't go
he's
back to 2
right.
o'clock.
Yeah,
No,
Councilman Ring is right.
That's
It should be,
only,
it should be no later than 1 hour.
that's only in equilibrium with their current closing time. If you guys push it back, then that
So,
language has to change.
To the
Yeah, I
degree,
think you're-
to the degree that we changed 14 to
Yes.
say something to the effect of no drinks are served after 1:15, I would support it.
Yeah, so that would absolutely have to change if you push it beyond 1 o'clock.
So we already have 3 at 1:15.
I will come up with
And
language.
with a review in 90 days.
Councilman Kirsch proposed a 1:15, so I'm presuming he's okay with it, so now we have 1, no, we have 1, 2, 3, we have 3 at 1:15. And I think here I probably would have kept it at the 1 for the 90 days, and then I would have given them 1:30 after 90 days, frankly, but, okay. So no drinks at 1:15. No drinks after 1:15.
I will,
And you're gonna make that last call issue clearer.
yeah, I would argue that it's clear if they close at 2 and you guys use 1. I will clarify it for
Okay,
this
fine.
change, 100%.
Would the council consider changing the language regarding the drink orders, which is contained in that paragraph?
Sorry, what?
It says that
The
the
assumption the last
opportunity.
call is an alcoholic beverage, right?
Yes.
They can order sodas and orange juice and things like that at any time.
Says, all patrons placing orders during this last call opportunity must be provided with the alcoholic beverage that was the subject of their last call order prior to 1 hour before licensee's designated closing
So
time.
that 1 hour is the same, it's synced with the current
No.
language, it will be
May I?
changed.
I think you guys deal with the business. If there's a rule that says the last drink served is at 1:15, I don't think we can dictate when last call is gonna be.
Correct.
Or not.
We don't care.
If you have 3 people in the bar, you know, it's pretty obvious, that's a shorter time. If you have 100 people in the bar, you're gonna need more time to get that last drink order in.
Yeah, I certainly know what you guys want here, and I will make this language. The discrepancy now is only assuming a 1 o'clock last call, or 1 o'clock last drink at a 2 o'clock closing time. If you're changing that 1 o'clock, the other language will have to change as well, which I am happy to do.
But I think what I'm hearing here, Mr. Corsini, is that that language, while it would have to change theoretically, we're also saying we would support eliminating when last call is announced.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
We'll get
So-
you there.
So the answer to your question is, you can make last call whenever you want, but no drinks should be served to a customer. Alcoholic beverages served to a customer after what I'm hearing is 1:15.
I have exactly what you guys
There will
want.
be consumption subsequent to
Correct.
1:15.
Oh, yeah, they can
Yes.
drink it, they can order
Yes.
it, they can drink it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think there's any ambiguity there. So I understand what you guys want, and I will be happy to draft it.
But they can't take it outside when they leave.
Oh, of course.
That's the-
That's a condition, and they have garbage cans and security guards requiring all
And-
patrons
And
to
it's
walk
a
out empty.
singular drink, it's not line them up 3 or 4 for me, right?
That would be also against the law, so, right?
Well, you can order more than one drink at a time,
Well,
in theory, but
The,
last call is, last call is whenever it needs to be, according to what you're proposing, and I'll have to speak to my client after this meeting. My client cannot agree to the 1:15 last drink served at this moment. We'll have to confer after this meeting to determine our next steps if necessary.
Well,
order, order one more drink, 14th, 6th line. The
Okay,
last
so-
call is a singular drink. It's
Yep.
not, I want 4 beers lined up here for my
Yeah,
last call.
I think that is covered in the language, but
what if you're buying a drink for you and your friend?
That's 2 different drinks for 2 different people.
yeah.
Right.
We'll make sure that the language is very tight.
How's the bartender and
And-
you only buying drinks
Well,
for
we really
you
won't.
and your friend?
I'll buy one for you and one for me, but I'll drink both of them.
All right.
I think I have good stuff to work with here.
Okay, so I think we are done going through this. I'm just gonna summarize how I see. Okay, number one, you're going to amend the objection to be people that have entered the establishment. Number two, no change. Number three was okay. Number four, we're going to keep the first sentence of paragraph 4. Number 5 and 6 were okay. Number 7, number 7, we were going to keep the same.
7 is second sentence deleted.
Second sentence deleted.
The reference to paragraph 4.
Yep.
Okay? Otherwise, the same. Paragraph 8 was okay. Paragraph 9. We're going to change it to maintaining whatever the current fence is.
You're going to get me the fence link, correct?
I'll get you the information regarding.
2 feet above the fence line. Number 10, no change. Number 11, no change. Number 12, we were okay amending from 30 to 90 days. Same thing with number 13. I guess you're going to add the 90 days. Number 14, no drinks after 1:15 a.m. 15 was okay. So that summarizes it, and I think based on all that, we don't need to have a closed session. And that's always the best. All right, so is there anything else, Ms. Parado, that you'd like to add?
I appreciate the council taking the time to go through the conditions with myself and my client, not only here tonight, but a few weeks ago when we met with the chief of police and the other members of the council and the business administrator. I reserve, pursuant to discussions with my client, the right to appeal the special conditions to the Division of ABC. I do think the Green Knoll Grill is definitely something that the Township of Bridgewater should be proud of. It is a long-running restaurant and bar, and I do feel that the key going forward is to have open lines of communication with the Township Council, and that's why I was retained. So I do think conditions by law need to be necessary and proper to effectuate the rules in Title 33. I'm not sure that all of these conditions do that, but I appreciate the time that the council has taken and to discuss these with us, again, both here this evening and a few weeks ago. So thank you.
Is there anything that your client would like to say?
She can't hear. Anything you'd like to say? Just thank you. Go ahead. Say it. No,
Thank you.
Right. Like I said from the beginning, we certainly appreciate your business in Bridgewater Township, and certainly I'm aware of Green Knoll Grill's longstanding place here, and I wish you much success. Just, based on the issues that we've seen and the non-compliance with reports, all these things are just things that we have to address. I really appreciate you being here and working with us and providing feedback, and this back and forth is very helpful. And I think with that, anybody else want to add anything in reference to item number 12?
I just think to the Green Knoll Grill, to your comment about maintaining open communication, obviously you're here tonight because of some decisions and discussions of the council, but, at least from my point of view, if the council president said, in 3 months, hey, the Green Knoll Grill wants to come in to give us an update on certain things, I certainly would welcome that. I don't think, I guess from my point of view, you don't need to wait for us to say we have an issue. And if there's something you guys, we can certainly, we might not agree on everything. We may have to agree to disagree, but that open communication, I hope, is something that we can together work to improve.
That's why I'm here, Councilman Ring, and truthfully, if the council has concerns, I would ask that, they reach out to myself or my client to talk about and not let things fester for a year. I'm hopeful that come next renewal season, next June, that, there'll be the ability to modify some of these conditions and work towards having open lines of communications in both directions. So if you have a question, my client is willing to sit and talk with anyone, meet you at the Green Knoll Grill and walk you through some things so you can actually see with your own eyes how things work or how things are operating.
So, thank you. And I've actually been there twice in the last week alone. I happen to be a first responder in Bridgewater, and emergency service has been called there a couple times in the last week, so I've actually been there. Been there several times.
Data.
Yeah.
It's only the nature.
Somewhat felt.
Anybody else?
We can expand.
Thank you.
I have an
It
issue.
would be, if there's a specific format that you would opt for your monthly report, if you'd want to share the framework of the report, I don't want to put you through having a monthly report and then have somebody saying 2 months later, gee, that's not what we wanted, or that. But rather than us craft a report when we don't really know the components of it, if you tell us what you plan to report, because I assume you're going to start reporting this month. It's a monthly report.
Absolutely.
And this is the first month.
Starting-
Maybe we'll just look to see what the first one comes in and see what it says.
Starting tomorrow, obviously, that's when we begin noting for the council and for submission by the 15th of the following month. If there's any questions, I would ask that the council not wait until next June, make a phone call, ask for a sit-down meeting. I'd rather work through issues as they occur than things build up and,
So would
fester.
we.
Believe me, so would we. This evening, I found one comment discerning, and that was the status of current reports where you had been submitting reports and you were told, oh, you didn't have to. I would ask if that occurs in the future,
Get a name.
get a name and let us know who said it.
I advised my client the same thing. Truthfully, the first time I met with my client and I looked at the prior special conditions, I said, I'd like to see the incident reports, and she said, we haven't been doing them, we were told we didn't need to do them. So going forward, my plan is to set my client up in such a way that these reports are kept and submitted timely, and will hopefully shed light on the police calls to the Green Knoll Grill and give appropriate background information so that you understand what the calls are related to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, just a brief closing thought. Earlier in the hearing, I expressed a desire to come to a common ground, a middle ground. I think that we have reached that, so I appreciate your cooperation. And hopefully we are at a point where you can operate successfully and we can minimize some of the dangers and concerns that we've raised.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else,
We have a closed session.
that concludes item number 12. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Have a great night. We don't really need a closed session because we went through the entire, oh, Mr.
Yeah,
Pappas is
Mr.
flagging me.
The mayor has asked that you have a short closed session. He's asked me to convey some information about pending litigation.
That's not on the, listed on the agenda. Can we do that, Mr. Corsini?
It is on.
You can amend your agenda.
It says license renewal.
You can do it. It's got to be, you have to amend your agenda and do the resolution. So she's got it. Linda's already prepared it, I see. So you just have to, do that's the resolution you have to do instead of the one that's on there now. It is permitted.
All right, so,
Motion to go to closed session for,
well,
You need a motion to amend the agenda first, Chris?
I mean, you probably should amend the agenda take a motion to amend the agenda to add the closed session for the topic in question.
that's what it is. That's what we're going to have.
Yeah.
Pending litigation.
And then you could also, yeah, you can also in the same motion go into closed session.
I make,
all right, I'll also entertain that motion. Discussing pending litigation is always discussed in closed session, and it's certainly, I would anticipate it's an important business matter. So why don't we do that?
so moved.
Second.
So there's a motion and a second to amend the agenda to include pending litigation and to go to closed session. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kerr?
Yes.
Councilman Fidel?
Yes.
Councilman Gatsa?
Yes.
Councilman Ray?
Yes.
President Pierce?
Yes. Be it resolved by the Bridgewater Township Council that this body will now hold a closed meeting to discuss the following: pending litigation. When and if the matters discussed become public record, this will be made known to the public at that time. The public is excluded from said meeting, and further notice thereof is dispensed with, all in accordance with Sections 8 and 4A of the Open Public Meetings Act. Be advised that there will be no other matter discussed on the agenda after when we come back from the closed session. So you're certainly welcome to return, but we're just going to come back and adjourn the meeting. So thank you all for being here, and have a great night.